Hello everybody. Today we are going to review the movie Underwater, which is available on, I believe, two platforms actually, Amazon Prime, and it is also available on Crave. Under Crave it is free. I think for Amazon Prime you have to pay, I think it said $9.99 for it, so, but it is on Crave as well, under the HBOMax. Platform, I guess, because yeah, Crave has as much as Amazon Video does, I guess, as well. So whichever one you have is, I guess, whichever one you can watch it on, or if you wanted to, if you have a subscription to all of them, like I do, because it kind of helps with reviewing movies and stuff, just to have like I have Crave, Disney Plus, Amazon Video, Netflix. I have yet to get Crunchyroll, just because mainly for anime I like to collect it on DVD. I have a huge anime collection. I just realized that the other day when I was collecting some DVDs that I actually bought two copies of some of the same stuff, so I might just end up pawning that off or just kind of keeping it as a second, as a backup for later. So yeah, I spent more money than I needed to, but hey, sometimes that happens when you're collecting animes and it's been so long since you've collected them and you're like, oh yeah, this is the one I have, and it ends up not being. But anyhow, I guess I can be counted as my intro for the video. Apparently I can't talk today, so bear with me for this review. So yeah, Underwater was starring Kristen Stewart, T.J. Miller. There was a couple others that were in the main cast for sure. I was thinking this was going to be kind of a more drawn out process, as to just judging from the trailer, like how stuff happened. I thought it was going to be like a drilling mission kind of gone wrong, which it was, but I thought it was going to be a little bit more dragged out than what happened. But we get thrown into them underwater right away at, I believe, like, I think their final depth was 36,000 feet, which was 6.8 miles underground. It was close enough to 36,000 feet. I think the actual measurement was 35,000 feet, 904, I guess, meters, that would be, right? So yeah, pretty close to 36,000 feet when they were at their final depth. So things go wrong right off the hop, and we don't really know why, other than the fact that obviously there's some sort of pressure causing the station that they are in to, is deteriorate the right word? It kind of just like implodes on itself, basically. So then only two of them, unfortunately, make it out, and then they kind of find survivors along the way as they're going through the station. So the first two characters we actually meet are Nora Price and Rodrigo, who are played by Kristen Stewart and Mamadou Athey. I'm probably butchering that name. I apologize if I am, but I don't think I've ever seen him in anything else. So, and then as they travel along after, I don't know how many hours, I guess it was almost 2 before they find anybody else, they find this character named Paul Abel, played by T.J. Miller, and then they actually find the captain of the station that they are in, and his name is Lucian, or Lucian, maybe? I'm going to say Lucian. Played by Vincent Castle, I believe. That's a pretty easy pronunciation, actually, surprisingly. So, I think there was actually 8. Was there? I think there was only 6 of them that ended up being survivors. Because then they meet up with Liam Smith and Emily Haversham, played by John Gallagher Jr. and Jessica Henwick. And I don't remember, there are some other characters here. Gunnar Wright, played by Lee Miller. Fiona Renee played the godmother. and Amanda Troop played Poseidon Patty. I don't really remember ever seeing them in the movie. Maybe they were some of the crew members that were dead as they kind of passed them, I suppose, possibly. That could have been, it. Yeah, that would have made sense, I guess. So obviously they have to get off the station they are in and travel to another part of the, I guess, underwater drilling site. And clearly that far down, you can't see anything around you without flashlights, right? So this movie was very intense in certain parts, especially when they're outside walking around on the ocean floor in their suits because they have limited oxygen. So they don't really know what is after them. And the first telltale sign we get, I guess, is you can hear this noise outside the station that they're in, I think, first. And then they listen to this transmission, and it doesn't sound good coming from other parts of the station, obviously where these other people are, so they go down even farther, which probably was a mistake. I think if they had been able to travel upwards, it probably would have been a better decision. But they travel downwards, and the first creature they find is this small, I don't know, it's not alien-like because it's underwater, right? But I guess it kind of is alien-like at the same time because we don't really know what is underwater that far down. So I guess I can say alien because it's an unidentified species, right? So it kind of does make sense to call it alien, I guess. So yeah, they find this underwater alien creature that's eating this body from this other, I don't really want to call it an elevator, but I guess kind of like this, yeah, kind of like an elevator that's taking them down. The first person to die, unfortunately, when they are before the elevator scene, they're doing this pressurization thing, and the one guy's mask starts to crack, and he actually literally implodes upon himself. So that, yeah, the deaths in this were just absolutely gross, and terrifying at the same time because being that far underwater and not knowing what's after you, and not knowing if you're going to make it out alive. Anyway, I think he did, because I think he knew that the mask was defective, so he kind of sacrificed himself in order for the rest of them to go on ahead. And I believe the second character to die, so that was Rodrigo. Rodrigo was the first one to pass away, and then after they find the alien creature, they do end up making it to the other part of the station, I do believe, and they have to travel in water, and they can hear something that's following them. By this time, they've kind of gotten a glimpse of what they are, what is after them. So that when they're in the station, the new part of the station, and now I can't remember every part of the station, the names for it, but so now they're in the second part of the station. I guess part of their goal was to travel there, but obviously their ultimate goal is to get to these pods and get back up to the surface, so that they can, I guess, tell their story. Yeah, live to tell their story, right? Besides, obviously, Rodrigo. So they find this little alien creature. Yeah, and then, right, they travel to the station, the other part of the station. So now they're even farther down. So I think they started at, the first reading we get is about 6.4 miles under the surface of the water. So then as they go down, I think the second reading is like 6.6 when they make it to the second part, when they make it to the new station, or new part of the station they're traveling to. And then, unfortunately, Paul dies second, because something is grabbing his line under the water, and literally it just pulls him out of his suit. That scene was super gory. So we still don't know exactly what these creatures are that are following them until they actually, I think, leave that part of the station and go to, they're trying to travel to an even farther part down to get to these pods to get them back up to the surface, right? So that's when they actually see the real creature. And by that time, Liam's running out of oxygen slowly, and I believe Liam and Emily are actually together, or at least they're dating or something, or there's definitely a love interest there for sure. I think they were actually together though, yeah. So something that Kristen Stewart's character brings up, Nora, she actually does say that once you've been underwater for so long, sometimes it's hard to tell what is a dream and what's real. It's hard to differ because you lose track of the days, right? Because you're so far underwater. It'd be like being in space, except instead of in the stars, you're literally underwater in the dark. So you have no track of time, no track of daylight. You're literally living in the dark. So it would be an interesting experience actually to travel that far underwater just to see what it would be like if there was. I don't know if there's anything actually like legitimately like this or not. I know they drill in the ocean, but I don't think there's any. I don't know if there's any stations that far down, because I don't know if you'd actually be able to. Yeah, I don't know whether pressure would be too much that far down or not. Now I'm not sure what the farthest depth in the ocean is. Like the farthest depth down we've ever traveled in the ocean is. Before we just couldn't travel any further, but I don't think anybody's actually ever reached the bottom. So I believe this station is actually supposed to be in the or near the Marianas Trench anyway. So I believe that's the deepest part of the ocean that we've ever tried to travel down. And I don't know how far that actually goes down, so pretty crazy. So when they're leaving the station, I think we get the first glimpse ever that we've had of the actual real creatures that are under the water. And they're kind of, it's hard to describe what they're really like, because they are underwater creatures, but they can travel on the bottom of they can travel on the ocean floor, and they're quick. So unfortunately the team kind of gets separated. It becomes Nora and Lucian, and then we have Liam and Emily. They get separated from them when one of the creatures decides to attack them. And unfortunately, the third person to die is the Captain Lucian. He does this by, however, saving Nora's life, because they were, I guess, attached together. So that's how they kind of got separated from the other two. So then Nora actually makes it to one of the abandoned stations that the captain had talked about before by following, I guess, the pipeline on the bottom of the ocean. So she makes it there, and then she decides to, because she is an engineer, she decides to fix her suit and go back out into the water to look for the other two of them. Now, I thought this was going to be a dream sequence, or at least she was hallucinating, and then one of the creatures was going to attack her, and that's maybe how the movie would end. But I had heard rumors of something else as to how the movie ended, and I'm glad that I was actually, I'm glad that I actually watched a little video on it, because it was just a speculation thing, I think, by somebody, or whether they'd actually seen the movie or not, I'm not really sure. But, yeah, I don't want to get into that yet, but it blew my... Yeah, I think my jaw hit the floor during that scene, because I wasn't really sure if it was actually true or not, so I was happy that it actually ended that way. But before we get into all that, she does run into Emily again, and obviously by this point I think both Emily and Liam's oxygen are getting super low, but they are able to get to the other part of the station. So she tells Emily to run inside, because all these creatures, they make it to the station, but all these creatures are like hibernating right above them. And unfortunately, Emily's suit goes off to tell her that her oxygen is super low. And it's like, uh-oh. Now the creatures are awake. One of them almost eats Nora, but she did take the flare gun out with her. Now, I'm not really sure whether this would work in real life, but she is able to shoot the flare gun off underwater and kill the creature. Unfortunately, that wakes the rest of them up. So Emily has to come back out and save her and bring her into the part of the station that they were actually trying to get to in the beginning, and kind of like break her mask open to give her enough oxygen to breathe again. And then now they're at the pods. So I believe that, yeah, by this point, before I get into that, we'd actually seen, and this was just rumored or a speculation, I think, by a video that I watched on YouTube, which made me want to see this movie even more, just because of this. I don't know if you know, like, what is it? Not a folklore legend, is it? But Cthulhu, the creature Cthulhu, is, I believe, an underwater god or water god. He's been... there is a game with him in it, but I can't remember the name of the game, or whether it's even been released yet, or whether it's an upcoming game. But I have to look into that again, because I know a YouTuber that I really started enjoying to watch has played that game, or at least a demo of it. So I'd have to go back and look at that. But yeah, Cthulhu is actually in this movie. So after Nora gets attacked, I guess, she kind of shoots off another flare underwater, and it lights up the creature. Because at this point, the smaller creatures kind of like disappeared. You can hear this roar, and it was the same roar that was on the, I guess, communication device from earlier in the movie. I guess on comms, yeah, that makes sense. So, and this thing is like massive, if you know what Cthulhu is. So he takes up probably, I would say, most of the ocean floor. Yeah, it was kind of a different adaptation or look for Cthulhu, I would say. Kind of weird, kind of almost looked like a kaiju from Pacific Rim with the weird like mouth thing that opened. But oh my god, I was happy that this was how the movie ended. So Nora saves both Liam and Emily and sends them back up to the surface. Unfortunately, her pod doesn't work. Cthulhu then tries to release all the creatures up to the pods because he sees them escape. But then Nora turns on the, I guess, what was it, generator to the station, or core, I guess, and decides to turn it on so high powered that it melts and explodes. So I'm not really sure whether she definitely kills the creatures. I'm not sure whether that blast would be enough to kill Cthulhu or not, but it is kind of interesting to ponder on that, I guess, because I think it might have lived through that. Cthulhu might have lived through that. It's hard to say, but that's just my speculation. Obviously, she sacrifices herself for the greater good to save the two of them. And then it kind of shows this little blurbs at the end of how obviously everybody's going to cover it up and not let these two have an interview. They're saying that all the footage was destroyed underwater, sort of thing. So yeah, there isn't going to be any tell of what happened underwater. And then they say that they're going to continue drilling. So we know that they've already sent out another team. Who knows what's going to happen to them? Because obviously most of the other team that we saw throughout the movie didn't make it that far. So I'm not really sure whether they sent people down to repair those stations or what, because most of it was absolutely destroyed and ripped apart. And yeah, there wasn't much left of it by the end of the movie. I have to give this movie a 10, because a 10 out of 10, because it did keep you on the edge of your seat. It kept you guessing. They could have maybe waited a little bit longer to show the creatures, but I wasn't disappointed that they actually did show them. There was one spot where Nora was traveling underwater and she actually sees like an underwater giant squid. So that was kind of cool. I wish they had a touch on that maybe a little bit more. I think they showed that in the trailer, actually. Now, obviously, there's some. I think she was in a pod or something, wasn't she? Like an underwater traveling, like a little pod thing. And then all of a sudden, the squid like jumps onto her pod. I'm not sure. I guess they kind of cut that out of the movie and just showed like a little clip of the squid. Or maybe that was actually like part of Cthulhu and we just didn't know it yet until it actually rises up out of the water. I'm not really sure. I think it was just a giant squid though, but maybe it was kind of like a teaser as to what the actual creature was later on in the movie. It could have been. It was very hard to tell sometimes what you were actually looking at because it was so dark. So yeah, but I did like the design of the underwater creatures, that's for sure. And yeah, I'm actually terrified of what could be possibly that far down in the ocean. And I know they very well touched on possibly like other worlds being in the, I guess, what is it? The crust? I guess the crust of the ocean would be or underneath the ocean floor, possible creatures that have just dwelled under there for so long because it could be warm, right? Kind of like the same concept as Journey to the Center of the Earth. Kind of like that. So it is an interesting concept to touch on, that's for sure. And I guess aliens have been done so much, especially in space, that this was kind of a new twist to it, which I liked. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping it would be interesting to do a sequel to this movie. I don't know where that would go, but I would kind of be interested to see like a new team underwater and kind of see what creatures actually died and lived during that explosion. I think that would be interesting to see if Cthulhu was still alive and whether there was actually like another part to this where they have to just go down and because obviously it's covered up, right? But I'm sure there are people deep down that know, like it within the actual company and stuff, that know what's down there. So I would like it would be interesting to see a sequel where they just go down to actually kill Cthulhu. And I think obviously because Nora is dead, it would be interesting to see them send Liam and Emily back down underwater with a different team to just kill Cthulhu, to take on Cthulhu. I think that would be interesting. But anyway, that's just speculation. Who knows if that will actually happen? It would just be an interesting film, I think. And who knows? Maybe they find Nora alive. That would also be a twist, hey? But anyhow, I think I've pretty much covered everything. I've given it a 10. It deserves a 10 just because I was not expecting it to be as good as it was, and it kind of blew me away. It wasn't really too jump scary. I thought it was going to be more jump scary. It was just kind of more like you felt tense during the underwater scenes, which I like. And I don't think they really needed super like jump scare things to make it any more intense. Like it was already a very intense moment when you're underwater and you're just like traveling around with a flashlight and watching the creature go around, and then all of a sudden it just kind of jumps out at you. I mean, it made me jump a little, but it wasn't like a yeah, they didn't do it. They didn't do any like super jump scares just for the sake of a jump scare. Like it was a build up, and I like that better than just like, oh well, jump scare, woohoo, now the whole intensity of that scene is over. But anyhow, yes, I've talked about this movie as much as I can. I think I've covered everything. So as always, like, share, subscribe, and comment down below your thoughts on this film if you've seen it. If not, I highly recommend this one. Definitely go watch it if you are a horror movie fan. It has horror aspects, action aspects, I would say a little bit of thriller, obviously. And I was shocked at how fast they jumped into what was happening. So, yeah, I would say I was definitely surprised by this movie, and I will definitely go back and watch it again in the future. Because I have so much planned, and I'm just kind of watching movie after movie after movie right now to just get my months prepared, and then I'll go back to watch some more hero stuff for August. So, other than that, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye for now.